Come on into the ditch. I'm your resident ditch witch, Tara Tyne, and we're about to get witchy, whether you like it or not. As you can see, it is a heavenly autumnal day, and we are going walking, we're going exploring. You know where we're going. We're going down the magic lane. And I've been for a good walk down here once before with Dave's mum Julie, but we didn't expect it to be so long, and we didn't really have the time to push it out any further. Now, I'm not saying I'm gonna go to the bottom of it today, because I do have stuff to do and I'm kind of pushing it a bit for lunch here. But I did promise you that we'd go, and I finally got a free hour on a beautiful sunny day. So away we go! Some of you might not know that when we left Dundalk, it caused a bit of a stir, both in local and national media. I don't really know how myself and Dave ended up becoming the poster children for the poor young generation having to move to rural Ireland. And it's true, we do miss family and friends. It was very sad having to leave, to just uproot ourselves and go. But the payoff. I could never have dreamed that I'd make it to such a beautiful place, unspoiled completely. And right beside my house is one of the most magical, beautiful laneways I think I've ever seen in my life. Look, I'm literally just only out of the house and we've got rose hips galore. Look at that. The place is coming down with them. Now, I'm not picking anything today. This is just an exploratory journey. But I told you I'd show you what all was here. And you'll probably know by now that I am an avid forager, so I've been paying very close attention to what I see in the hedgerows. But honestly, you don't have to look too far. Rose hips, if you don't already know, are an excellent source of vitamin C for the winter months. What I tend to do with them is mix them in with some elderberries, with some blackberries, and a few other tasty bits and pieces, and I make a winter tonic. Yes, it is crammed out with sugar. You can use honey if you prefer that, and I will at some point pick all the things and do the recipe, but I'm not going to pressure myself to do it this autumn if it doesn't naturally happen, because we have so much else going on. As I'm sure you saw from last week's video, a lot done, but a lot more to do. And I have spent considerable time traipsing around the surrounds of Dundalk trying to find rose hips because they are such a good source of vitamin C, and very often I came up empty-handed, so to be able to just walk out my door and they're there waiting for me is just magical. There's no other way to describe it. And the next thing we come across immediately afterwards, see those little white berries? They're a little bit tricky to see there with the bright sunshine. Take note of the shape of the leaves. Now, these are not good for humans to eat, but you know who loves them? Pheasants. And you know who loves pheasants? Me. Yum yum! Now, I haven't seen any pheasants yet, and in Ireland, as probably in a lot of other countries, they are a popular game bird. Now, I don't have a hunting licence. I'm not exactly rushing out to get one, but if Dave came home and told me he accidentally hit a pheasant on the lane, I'd probably forgive him, you know. And immediately afterwards, I found my holly for the winter wreaths. Now, I don't know yet if any of the holly down this lane actually has berries on it, but we'll find out in a couple of months' time. And just over here as well, you can see we've got haws. Now, I've never actually picked haws before. I'm a little bit cautious about haws, because I think it's only right to be cautious about anything that's associated with the fairies. But apparently, according to some of the Facebook foraging groups that I'm in, haws actually make a very good ketchup-y kind of thing. Someone said it was a bit like barbecue sauce. So, at some point, that's definitely happening. And of course, we have the blackberries. They're just, this whole lane, this whole area is just littered with them. They grow very easily in Ireland. I've seen people buying them in to plant them elsewhere, and it doesn't surprise me that people might want to have access to that beautiful flavoursome berry at this time of year. But in Ireland, it's a wee bit inconceivable to think of buying in blackberries because they're everywhere. In fact, they can be a bit of a hassle and really take over a property if they're let go. They're very good at spreading, very quick, and they can be very stubborn to get rid of once they establish themselves. And this is all before we've even reached the next house down the laneway. I literally couldn't get over the abundance of stuff that's growing down here the first time I walked it. I thought I was seeing things. You might also remember me mentioning that there are hazelnuts down this lane, and hazelnuts, I mean, I don't know if they're rare all over Ireland, but in Dundalk and other places I had foraged before. I'd only ever seen hazelnuts in the wild once before, and this lane has a lot of hazel trees all producing hazelnuts. Paddy has brought 2 large plastic bags of them up to us. They're currently drying out in paper bags in the shed. I'm really looking forward to having a feast at Halloween, and because they've been picked, they are one thing that I am going to try and preserve this year. So some of them I might just store, and some of them I might try and turn into some kind of peanut butter. Stay tuned for that. And I've stopped walking here again to show you the sloes which are growing now. I'm sure plenty of you will have heard of sloe gin. So that's infusing some gin with these delicious berries. Now again, these are not good for eating raw. Much like rose hips and elderberries, they're just not great for humans in their raw state. But they can be used to infuse things. And actually, if you've got any other recipes for sloes, tell me about them down below. Take your time and think about it. I just need to take my jacket off here. It's just a scorcher of a day. And I heard tractors on the go non-stop over the last day or two, and I would have thought silage season was over, but then what the hell do I know about farming? Oh, look at another big clatter of sloes there. Look at them there in all their glory. Can you believe the amount of stuff that grows down one lane? It just goes to show what happens when nature is let go by itself. And I feel as well like this is probably a really good opportunity to share some of the rules of foraging with you. There aren't too many, other than the number 1 rule: be incredibly sure of what you're picking before you pick it and take it home and eat it. That goes double for mushrooms, but we're not doing that today. And the other number 1 rule of foraging is to only take about 1/10 of what's there. The reason for that being that you want the species to be able to regenerate itself. You don't want to be stripping the tree or the bush of all of its fruits, because A, you might go out one year and it mightn't be there anymore, and B, because there are other species relying on it. And they need it more than we do. Birds mainly, but a lot of other wildlife will feed on fallen fruits and the likes. So you have to think of them. In Ireland, the blackberries aren't such a problem because there's always loads more. And there's always plenty which have fallen before you get to them. But with things like sloes and rose hips and that sort of thing, the general rule of thumb goes that for every 20 that are there, you should only be picking 2, so bear that in mind, please. And I've just come across something that I actually don't recognise. What is this? What are these beautiful little sort of plummy, peachy-like berries? I have no idea what these are. Okay, if anybody knows, drop it in the comments below. I will definitely be checking it out when I go home. Look at the shape of that one there. How strange. And how exciting to come across another species of berry that I didn't already know down this lane. I hadn't heard of snowberries before, and secretly, inwardly, I did a little bit of a jig when I discovered that they attracted pheasants. And my next thought then was, which came first, the snowberry or the pheasants? Pheasants were introduced by the Normans when they came like 800 years ago. Did they bring the snowberries for the pheasants, or were they just here anyway and it was a happy coincidence? I think I hear a tractor coming up here, so we might need to leap into a hedge at a moment's notice. And I found another berry growing here. I'm pretty sure they're not edible, but I don't know what they are. They seem to belong to this tree. And it is at this point I have to admit that I don't actually have an awful lot of knowledge about trees. There's a few of them I can identify. I know birch, I know rowan, species that I've specifically worked with in the past. But honestly, if it's not growing in a ditch, I'm a bit And these are all growing in a ditch actually, so I should just, holy crap, I should just shut up and learn what they are really, shouldn't I? Look at them all there. That's a thumbnail shot now if ever I saw one. Yeah, someone tell me what they are. They're so abundant. And now we're coming into the boglands. Can you see? Can you see all the reeds growing? Those are the reeds that we would use to make St. Bridget's crosses, but we're not going to do that today. Today I just want to go a little bit further on this lane than I've gone before and have a look at what's been growing here since I was last here. Like this lovely little purple thing. I think that's some kind of vetch. I also have some wildflower species growing in the fields up at the house that I'm not terribly familiar with. Things I've come across once or twice before, but the place is just coming down with wildflowers and I consider it my personal duty to learn everything that's growing on my land. It's so important to know the kind of ecosystem that you're living in so that you can help to protect it and encourage it. I actually saw a bird of prey flying overhead this morning. That's kind of rare enough in Ireland. We don't have an awful lot of them. I haven't yet managed to identify which one it was and I did think to myself, the camera, where is the camera? But the battery was charging and the camera was in the other room. And I knew by the time I got it, it would be gone, so I just stood there and looked and tried to memorise all the markings I could see. From underneath, I could see it had like pale coloured feathers on the underside of its wings, but there was like a dark outline around the bottom of them. So I had a quick look before I left there, just at one article, to see if I could figure it out, but the internet was being a wee bit slow, and I wasn't standing around clicking around the internet when there was a magical laneway to be walked. We've also got honeysuckle growing here. I did actually intend to pick a few heads and make a cup of honeysuckle tea so that Dave could try it the last time I was down here, but then I forgot and now it's mostly gone. Oh well. It's all just stuff to look forward to for next year. Oh, and I didn't realise we had horses down the lane. You can see there. Sorry, that's as close as I can zoom in, but you've got a mommy on our foal by the looks of it. And we have another guy hiding over here. You can just barely see him. Wow, it's a terror to think that they might be happy grazing in amongst all those reeds. It signifies quite boggy land, but again, what the shite do I know about horses? I'm sure the horse people who own them know an awful lot more than I do. And then we've got a random little, what looks like the top of a stone pillar down there, or maybe it's something got to do with a water shore or something like that, or maybe it's a pixie palace. Either way, I'm not hanging around to find out. Thank you very much. Ooh. What do you think's going on here? It's clearly a stream running behind that. Is this a bridge? Is it a boundary? Maybe to stop somebody from falling in? I don't know. But a lot of quite old stone pillars around these parts. Combined with the general sort of feel of this lane, it feels lived in. This is not a new lane. I think this lane has been used by farmers for a very, very, very long time. I know not everybody can get out walking in nature. There have been times myself when I've lived in urban centres and getting out to the countryside without a car just seemed impossible. And that's why I think it's so important to share these experiences with other people who can't get out, because you need that relief, especially if you're a bit witchy like me this time of year. You need to get out, you need to see what's there. Spooky season is on its way and the land is just be calling me. Look at the size of the rose hips, look at them, massive. But for those of you who can get out and do get out, tell me what you're foraging this time of year. Tell me whereabouts you are, what kind of climate have you got, and what are the native species that you look forward to picking every year? And what do you make with them? What are your favourite recipes? Do you preserve them? Keep them all winter? Sorry, my eyes are stuck to the ditch here because there's just so much growing, I'm afraid to miss anything. So many different kinds of ivy, a massive selection of holly, and more fruit than you could shake a stick at. Honest to God. For those of you who don't forage and are wondering why I'm getting so excited, it's a bit like being let loose in your favourite shop with an open tab that someone else is picking up, but I'm having to be disciplined. There's too much else to do. In fact, I have to take a trip back up to Dundalk soon. There's a video I'd been promising to do for a friend up there. A friend you've actually briefly met before, and I'm looking forward to introducing you again. But I have to be disciplined. I mean, there are still boxes and bags in the house that haven't been unpacked yet. Somebody was asking about insulation for the pump house and that, and yes, you are correct. We still have to do all the insulation. We actually have the insulation for the pump house. I think we got it for free. I happened to be on the buy and sell one day. Oh, there's more of them berry things growing that I didn't know what they were. They look like they're a bit more developed and ripened. Definitely have to suss that out. Just try and get a good shot of the shape of the leaves, so I can identify it when I get home. Yeah, I got a bit overexcited there. I'm easily distracted when I'm out foraging. But yeah, I was on the buy and sell and saw that somebody in Dundalk was giving away like blocks of foam insulation for nothing. So Dave spun round in the car, filled the boot, and we have enough insulation to insulate the pump house. We are also planning on investing in some rolls of fiberglass insulation to put under the mobile home. I don't think it's crazy money. I think to do the whole mobile is only going to cost about €100. So I will order some of that really soon and get it delivered out. But you know yourself, while there's still so much movement happening, you know, every job you do, you got to move a load of stuff out of the way, and then you do another job, you have to move it again. So there's no point in me trying to set up a kind of permanent pantry situation in order to put all the things I'd be making with all the foods I'd love to forage. So I do really just have to keep a short leash on myself. This year at least anyway. I plan to be fully set up for it next year. I've got the shelves, I know where it's going, the house is lovely and cool. And I have no doubt that there will always be at least one room in there that we're not going to be working on at a time. So storing my goods hopefully isn't going to be as much of an inconvenience next year as it probably would be this year. And apart from anything else, it takes time to process the foods. You know, you have to give them a good wash, and sometimes there's seeds or stems to be gotten rid of. And it's all just a little bit too chaotic still to be doing that kind of thing. I'm actually meant to be at home cutting the fabric for my blinds now. I've already cut the fabric for the curtains that I have to make, and because we have it on good authority that our mobile probably isn't ever going to be able to be moved again in one piece. Oh, I hear a stream. Beautiful. It's quite a reddish colour. I wonder, does that mean it's full of iron oxide or something? So yeah, because the mobile can't be moved again basically from where it is without probably falling to pieces, we took a very quick decision that there is no point trying to invest real money into kind of renovating and doing it up. At some point we might maybe like to set up a bit of an Airbnb situation, but we certainly wouldn't want it that close to the house that we're living in and blocking our whole view of our beautiful fields. We'd want to put it somewhere a little bit more tactful, discreet, private, so that anyone who comes to stay could really enjoy the experience of the countryside. So when it comes to kind of kitting out the mobile, we are trying to use as much of what we already have. Reduce, reuse, recycle. And I have been preparing for this moment my entire life. I've been carting boxes and bags worth of fabric round with me actually for years now, with the collection growing ever more steadily, because I just had a feeling at some point I was going to have to make a big beautiful patchwork of something. And so we're going to have patchwork curtains, patchwork blinds, hopefully if it works, and maybe some cute little patchwork cushions to match with the scraps that I've got left over. So there were some parts I needed for the curtains and blinds, a little bit tricky to get in this part of the country, so I'm going to pick some of that stuff up when I head back to Dundalk and hopefully start shooting that video next week. Look at that mysterious, beautiful, magical laneway. Yeah, I know not all of you are going to want to watch me make curtains and blinds, but I know a lot of my fellow witches and wizards out there are quite crafty, and I suspect I'm not the only one lurking around these parts that has a massive stash of fabric. I'm looking at you, you know who you are. So I figured trying to learn together how to save a blind fortune, but on window dressings would be a good idea. I've actually got some thermal blackout lining and fabric that I want to use, because as much as anything else we need the curtains and blinds to keep the heat in when the temperatures start dropping. So I don't actually know how long I've been walking for now. I've pretty much been filming for most of the walk, so I suppose I'll find out when I sit down to edit this video. I feel like it's probably the guts of a half an hour, and my own personal instinct tells me that this laneway probably looks different every time you walk down it. Oh, I see a lot of gorse growing in there. Very tricky to get to, but I'm hoping maybe over the course of the next few years to meet and possibly befriend some of the landowners who live down here. Oh my god! Oh my god! We've hit the jackpot! I thought when I saw the ferns that we could be in for something exciting. Do you see that? That is the biggest bullet mushroom I've ever come across in my life. And you can see, can you see the foamy underside of it? It doesn't have gills like a normal mushroom. It has like that sort of spongy kind of substance that you can actually just reach in usually and scoop out with your fingers. Now, this one looks very, very developed, quite old and leathery and inedible, so I'm gonna leave it there. I'm not even gonna check the identification. One thing you should know is that not all bullets are pleasant to eat. Some of them are quite disagreeable. Oh, and remember my warning about mushrooms. Always be 200% sure of what you're picking, because they can be quite dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. I've been doing it for years now and I would still be so cautious. Bullet is the species I'm most familiar with, but there's several different kinds. And as I say, they're not all good. Oh, I promised myself I wasn't going to go looking for mushrooms just yet. I know there is a forest nearby us and I'm looking forward to actually doing a whole other video of just exploring the forest, because there's history in there as well as foraging. But you know, when the bullets just jump out of ditches at you like that, what's a witch meant to do, huh? Thank you so much for taking this beautiful autumnal stroll down this beautiful magical lane with me. A walk is always a lot more fun with company, even when you're a bit of a solitary ditch witch. Anyway, this witch has to get back for a bite of lunch. I'm flipping starving now. So hit subscribe for more fun and witchy adventures. I upload as often as I possibly can. and you're not going to want to miss it. Slán agus beannacht, goodbye and good luck to you.